In the year 20XX, Japan's top medical researcher, Professor Kanji Yakutani, is completely consumed by his work at T University. His assistant, Matsumoto, comes in to let him know that a pharmaceutical company representative has arrived for a meeting. Even then, Kanji barely looks up from his desk. His mind is always focused on his mission to develop life-saving medicine. As he continues to work late into the night, Kanji feels dizzy and weak. He grabs a quick bite of Calorie Mate and an energy jelly, trying to push through the exhaustion. His eyes fall on a photo of his younger sister, Chiyu, who died from a brain tumor years ago. Remembering how helpless he felt as a child when he couldn't save her, Kanji vowed to dedicate his life to finding better cures. He keeps working until dawn, determined to finish his research. But the long hours and lack of rest finally catch up to him. When Matsumoto enters the next morning, Kanji has passed away at his desk, a victim of his own dedication. Then, everything changes. Kanji wakes up in an unfamiliar room, his body feeling different. A cheerful maid greets him, calling him young Master Pharma. Confused and disoriented, Kanji looks around and realizes he's no longer in Japan. Instead, he's in a world straight out of a painting. Elegant buildings, unfamiliar landscapes, and magic. The maid, Charlotte, explains that he was struck by lightning and that his memory might be fuzzy. Slowly, Kanji realizes he has been reincarnated as Pharma de Medicis, the youngest son of a noble family known for their divine powers. When Charlotte helps remove his bandages, strange glowing markings appear on Pharma's arms, the holy symbols of the god Panactheos. Though Pharma tries to rationalize it scientifically, Charlotte is convinced it's a divine sign. As Charlotte gives him a tour of the mansion, she explains his new family. His father Bruno is the president of the Royal College. His mother Beatrice is kind and elegant. His older brother Pal is studying abroad, and his little sister Blanche adores him. But there's a problem. Everyone expects Pharma to use the divine arts, and he doesn't remember how. If he fails, he could be disgraced or even cast out. Determined to figure it out, Pharma experiments with his powers alone. He imagines water, and suddenly, torrents burst from his hands, flooding the room. Shocked but thrilled, he quickly throws the water out the window, accidentally soaking Charlotte in the garden. Pharma soon realizes his powers go far beyond what normal people can do. He can create and erase substances at will, as long as he knows their chemical structure, something no one else in this world seems capable of. At dinner, Pharma meets his family, who are relieved that he's recovered. His father tests him with a few questions about medicine, and Pharma's knowledge impresses everyone. It's clear that his new life won't just be about living as Pharma. It's a chance to fulfill his lifelong dream of saving lives. Later, his tutor, Eleanor, visits and immediately notices that Pharma's personality seems different, calmer, kinder, and more focused. Blaming the lightning strike for his memory loss, she begins retraining him in divine arts. During their lesson by the river, Eleanor demonstrates a small water spell and asks Pharma to try. He does, and summons a massive wave that nearly knocked her over. When she checks his mana, her tool instantly overloads. Seeing the divine markings glowing on his arm, she realizes his powers are beyond human. As they head home, Pharma helps her after she loses her glasses. Accidentally, his new divine eye activates, revealing her injured finger. And to her horror, she also notices that Pharma has no shadow. Terrified, she runs away screaming, leaving Pharma standing there in confusion. Pharma's dad, Bruno de Medicis, telling him that his tutor, Eleanor Bonifoy, is sick with a cold and won't be coming that day. Bruno asks if something happened between them, but Pharma stays quiet, remembering the whole giant water spear plus no shadow equals scared teacher situation from before. Bruno gives Pharma a potion and a letter to deliver to Eleanor. But the moment Pharma inspects the potion, he realizes it's basically a glorified energy drink, not nearly strong enough to help her recover. So, being a modern-day doctor that he is, Pharma casually makes some acetaminophen and a healing salve to give her instead. When Pharma arrives at Eleanor's house, she greets him, wearing a full suit of armor. Yeah, she's convinced he's come to silence her for discovering his powers. Pharma tries to tell her to chill. He's just there to check on her health. But every time he offers her medicine, she thinks it's poison. Eventually, Pharma tells her the truth. He needs her help. She's the only one who can teach him the divine arts, since they're not written down anywhere. Eleanor, still trembling, promises to keep his secret if he spares her. Pharma sighs and hands her a bouquet of blue flowers along with the medicine, his own peaceful way of saying, "Relax, I'm not here to murder you." After thinking it over, Eleanor finally takes the medicine, realizing that Pharma isn't some evil god, just a socially awkward kid with too much power and a kind heart. The next day, she returns to the Medici's estate, still wearing her armor, just in case, to continue tutoring him. She thanks Pharma for the gift, and takes him to a quiet island to practice his divine powers safely. It's a tough process, but Eleanor seems more determined than ever to help him control his abilities. Later, Pharma is seen studying on the stairs while greeting the household staff. Using his divine eye, he starts diagnosing small health problems among them. Realizing he can use his powers for more than magic tricks, Pharma begins treating people in secret. First up is Charlotte, his loyal maid, who has sore hands from overwork. Pharma creates a hemorrhoid cream mixed with a mild steroid, basically ancient world hand lotion on steroids, literally. Charlotte is amazed and asks if her mother and the other staff could get some too. Pharma happily agrees and treats everyone's individual issues. The staff are stunned. No one's ever cared for their health before. Charlotte even points out that commoners rarely get medical attention, since only nobles are allowed professional treatment. Pharma is furious at the unfairness of it all and vows to change that, to make medicine for everyone, not just the privileged. A few days later, Pharma's little sister Blanche comes down with chickenpox, forcing her into isolation for 3 weeks. Bruno mentions that Pharma can visit her since he's already had it, but warns he might catch it again. Pharma is surprised by how much his dad knows, though Bruno's slight cough doesn't go unnoticed. Determined to help, Pharma creates acyclovir, an antiviral medicine from his old world, and hides it in a macaron so Blanche will eat it without fuss. When she asks how he knows about it, Pharma lies and says he read it in one of their father's books. When Blanche starts scratching, Pharma warns her not to, explaining that she'll spread evil spirits, because apparently viruses don't exist in this world yet. He stays by her side, feeding her apples and comforting her until she falls asleep. Blanche happily tells Pharma he's been really nice lately, but she doesn't mind the change because she loves her big brother. Pharma smiles, but tears up, remembering his late sister, Chiu, from his past life. A few days later, Blanche recovers completely. Bruno is amazed at how fast she healed, though Blanche keeps Pharma's secret safe. Back in his room, Pharma tinkers with a new invention, a handheld microscope, so he can one day show Blanche what bacteria really look like. But as he works, he starts wondering about his powers and whether there's a limit to what he can do. Before he can think too deeply, Simon, a family servant, calls him. His father wants him to meet the queen herself. Pharma accompanies his father, Bruno, to the royal palace after hearing that Queen Elizabeth's condition has worsened. On the way there, Pharma notices his father's heavy cough, but doesn't get the chance to examine him with his divine eye. When they arrive, they're greeted by Claude de Chauliac, the head physician, before being ushered in to see the queen. As Bruno and the other physicians begin their examination, Pharma quietly observes. He notices how they rely on astrology and traditional tests, something that frustrates him deeply. Bruno reassures the queen that she'll recover soon, but Pharma can see the truth. The queen is on the verge of death. Using his divine eye, he diagnoses her with tuberculosis, known in this world as the White Death. He realizes they're preparing for a peaceful passing rather than a cure. Just then, Prince Louis and his retainer Noah rush in, devastated to see the queen so frail. Watching the prince cry for his mother gives Pharma the courage to step forward. He tells everyone that there is a new medicine that can cure the White Death. The room falls silent. The other doctors tell him to stop speaking nonsense, but Queen Elizabeth raises her hand and says she's willing to trust him. Pharma locks himself in the royal laboratory and begins creating the medicine, a 4-drug combination of isoniazid, pyrazinamide, ethambutol, and rifampin. He starts with rifampin, carefully drawing its molecular structure to visualize it perfectly. As he works, Bruno storms in, furious that Pharma is experimenting with untested drugs. He demands that Pharma stop immediately, calling his actions reckless. But Pharma stands firm. He tells his father that the White Death can be cured, and that Bruno himself is infected after tending to the queen. Bruno, shocked, attacks using divine arts to stop Pharma. Pharma counters with an ice barrier, protecting himself. Seeing his son's calm strength, Bruno demands to know who he really is. Bruno notices a book on the table filled with unfamiliar knowledge. Pharma explains that the knowledge came to him in a dream after he was struck by lightning, a gift from a higher being. Bruno then spots the divine mark of Panactheos glowing on Pharma's arm, realizing that his youngest son has been chosen by the gods. Pharma pleads with his father to give the medicine to the queen, but Bruno refuses, saying that Pharma should deliver it himself and take responsibility for the outcome. Pharma agrees, lowers the ice barrier, and continues his work. As Bruno watches, he remembers the times Pharma used to cry over failed experiments, realizing how far his son has come. Later, Pharma returns to the queen's chamber wearing a medical mask. Claude asks Bruno to control his son, but Bruno shakes his head. He knows Pharma has surpassed them all. Pharma sets up his handmade microscope and lets the queen look through it. For the first time, she and the doctors see the bacteria causing her disease. Shocked and speechless, Claude listens as Pharma explains how the medicine will destroy the bacteria over 6 months of treatment. The queen agrees without hesitation. Pharma pours 2 doses of the drug mixture, one for her and one for himself, and drinks one to prove its safety. The White Death will no longer be incurable, he declares, as the physicians look on in awe. On their way home, Bruno reflects on his failures as both a father and a teacher. He always tried to understand his patients' hearts, but never truly understood his son's. Pharma hands him a dose of medicine for his own cough and thanks him for showing him what it means to care for patients facing death. Bruno, finally at peace, agrees. As they return to the mansion, the family rushes to greet them, unaware that the future of medicine in their world has just changed forever. During the first 3 months of Queen Elizabeth's recovery, Pharma and his father, Bruno, spent many long evenings exchanging knowledge about medicine. Bruno confided that a noble had recently approached him, demanding the cure for the White Death, but he turned the man away. Pharma nodded thoughtfully, explaining that for now, he was the only one capable of producing the medicine. But one day, he planned to make the method public. Medicine, he said firmly, is meant to be shared with everyone, not guarded like treasure. Bruno smiled faintly, but warned him that such ideals could easily be seen as heresy. Some will call you mad, he said. Others will call you dangerous. As Pharma left, Bruno looked after him, silently remembering another man once accused of being a heretic, Camus de Sade. Before visiting the Queen, Pharma was stopped in the corridor by Noah, Prince Louis's loyal retainer. With a mischievous grin, Noah teased him about what kind of reward the Queen might bestow for saving her life. Pharma paused, unsure at first, but then smiled. If I could ask for anything, he said, I'd like to open a pharmacy in the capital, one that serves both the rich and the poor. Later, when he met with Queen Elizabeth, she spoke candidly about her fears. I was brought low by illness, she said softly. Perhaps I no longer deserve the throne. Pharma reassured her, reminding her that she still had the love of her people and the faith of her son. You've been given a second life, he told her gently. 6 months after her recovery began, a grand ceremony was held at the royal court. Before a gathering of nobles and scholars, the fully healed Queen Elizabeth too publicly honored the 2 men who had saved her life. She granted Bruno de Medici's lordship over the lands of Marseille, recognizing his decades of service to the crown. Then she turned to Pharma, praising his brilliance and compassion. From this day forward, she declared, Pharma de Medicis shall serve as an official royal pharmaceutist. She also granted him permission to open a pharmacy of his own in the capital. Construction began soon after. Carpenters and stonemasons filled the street, hammering and carving under Pharma's careful supervision. Eleanor and Charlotte worked tirelessly by his side, helping organize supplies and draft floor plans. After several long weeks, the design was complete, a clean, modern space unlike anything the city had seen before. When the workers asked what the new establishment should be called, Pharma thought for a moment. Lost in thought, he muttered to himself, a pharmacy from a parallel world. The workers loved the sound of it, and before he could object, the name Parallel World Pharmacy had stuck. Soon after, Varon, the chairman of the local pharmacists' guild, stopped by. With a polite smile that didn't reach his eyes, he tried to undermine Pharma's reputation, hinting that a young noble like him didn't belong in the common trade. Pharma ignored the insults, keeping his composure. When Varon grew more aggressive, Eleanor stepped in and firmly showed him the door. Pharma officially hired Eleanor and Charlotte as a staff, but soon realized he still needed someone to handle bookkeeping. That problem was solved when he learned that Cedric Lanoux, his father's longtime steward, was retiring due to his bad knees. Pharma immediately offered to heal him if he agreed to manage the pharmacy's accounts. Cedric accepted with a smile, grateful for the opportunity. Later, Pharma discovered that his father had quietly arranged it all, allowing Cedric to leave his service so he could help Pharma instead. With the building complete and the staff ready, Parallel World Pharmacy finally opened its doors. A month after opening Parallel World Pharmacy, Pharma's big dream store is kind of flopping. Like really flopping. Nobles only visit when they're bored, and merchants swing by once in a blue moon. Eleanor's not shocked, though. She knows people stick to what they know, all about convenience. Charlotte even does a little field survey and finds out the locals are either scared of the new place, don't trust it, or straight up can't read the sign. Their only loyal customer? Jean, the sailor who keeps dropping by for water and vitamin C candies like it's his daily health ritual. Then one day, Pharma's parents roll up in disguise, terrible disguises, by the way, to inspect the shop. After hearing about the lack of business, Beatrice suggests they start selling cosmetics. Bruno agrees but warns no white powder. That stuff's basically poison. Pharma's impressed his dad even knows that. Just then, a noblewoman faints in front of the store, because apparently this is how Pharma gets customers now. Turns out she's been bloodletting herself. Yikes. And using sketchy makeup full of mercury just to look pale for a guy who ghosted her. Her name's Chloe de Chatillon, and honestly, she's down bad. Pharma patches her up and gives her medicine, then promises to make her safer makeup. A week later, he unveils his new lead-free, mercury-free face cream. Chloe tries it and loves it so much she forgets all about bleeding herself. The stuff becomes an overnight hit. The whole city's going nuts for Pharma's beauty products. Chloe swoops in with a business offer. She'll fund a new cosmetics store, Medique Cosmetics, with Pharma as the boss. Pharma's stunned but agrees. Chloe staffs it with experienced women pharmacists, moms who were fired after having kids, and Pharma, the walking HR department, invents maternity and family leave on the spot. Meanwhile, the queen catches wind of Pharma's makeup line and calls him in. She's obsessed with his medicated lip gloss and drops a royal decree banning toxic white powders. Then she warns Pharma not to become the Jeff Bezos of medicine, promising to publish everything. She even tells him to raise his prices so others can compete. Pharma officially becomes the first pharmacist/makeup mogul in the fantasy world. The de Medici's family heads to Marseille for a well-deserved summer break, because even genius pharmacists need a vacation. While Bruno stays busy with trade reports, Pharma finally gets to relax. Down at the beach, Charlotte and little Blanche are excited to swim, but Big Brother Pharma tries to play it safe and says no. Of course, one look at their puppy eyes, and he caves instantly, agreeing to let them just dip their feet. Eleanor joins in too, and as they enjoy the day, Pharma thinks about his past life, especially his younger sister, who never got the chance to swim. But then disaster strikes. A huge wave crashes in and sweeps Blanche into the sea. Pharma's heart stops, and he dives in immediately, with Eleanor close behind. When Blanche sinks beneath the waves, Pharma's old trauma floods back, the memory of losing his sister before. In panic, he unleashes his divine power and literally parts the ocean. Everyone watches in shock as Pharma pulls Blanche and Eleanor safely to shore. Blanche bursts into tears, and Pharma, trembling, is just thankful she's alive. Eleanor, still stunned, looks at him like, that night, Pharma can't sleep. He realizes how dangerous his powers really are. One mistake, and he could have wiped out everyone nearby. Charlotte quietly comes to check on him, saying she's amazed by what he did. Pharma tells her she's part of his family too, which brings her to tears. It's a calm, heartfelt moment, the kind that makes Pharma feel human again. Meanwhile, far away, a priest named Salomon hears about Pharma's sea-splitting stunt and immediately calls it heresy. When the pharmacy reopens, business picks up again, but not everyone who visits is friendly. Two strange men in white robes walk in, stare at Pharma without a word, then leave. Eleanor instantly guesses they're from the church, and Pharma decides to alert the guards. The next morning, chaos hits. Out of nowhere, a blindfolded horse pulling a cart crashes into the pharmacy, spilling piles of dirt everywhere. Bruno explodes, calling it an act of war, while Pharma suspects either the temple or the Pharmacists Guild. Just when things seem normal again, a desperate woman rushes in, begging Pharma to help her sick father. Being the kind soul he is, Pharma doesn't hesitate. He grabs his horse and follows her into the countryside. But midway through the ride, the woman suddenly disappears. Before he can react, he's surrounded by men in white robes. It's the church's Inquisition, and leading them is none other than Salomon, the man who's been waiting for a reason to call Pharma a heretic. We start with a little flashback. Eleanor is giving Pharma a crash course on how the world really works. She explains that the temple ranks even higher than the queen herself, and that it's the one giving nobles their divine powers. And they've got their own squad, the Inquisition, whose job is to hunt down evil spirits and anyone misusing divine arts. But when they try to trap him in a binding circle, nothing happens. Turns out, you can't bind someone who isn't an evil spirit. The priests look confused. Pharma just looks bored. Then one of them decides to go full pyromaniac and hurl fire at him. Pharma sighs and snuffs it out instantly by removing all the oxygen in the air. Another genius tries a water attack. Pharma casually deletes the water. The man's basically saying, can we not? Pharma puts up an ice barrier and blows them all back with a burst of power. Salomon falls off his horse, dazed, and suddenly notices Pharma's holy mark. That's when it hits him. Pharma isn't a heretic. He's the real deal. The Panactheos, the divine being himself. All his men drop to their knees, begging forgiveness. Salomon, completely shaken, even tries to stab himself out of shame, but Pharma stops him. Salomon's leg is badly injured, so Pharma uses his divine eye to diagnose him. The leg glows red when he considers amputation, meaning it's the wrong move. He then suggests reduction, the right treatment. Problem is, Pharma's not exactly a surgeon, but he's the only one who can do it. So our boy rolls up his sleeves, conjures a stone table out of thin air, and starts surgery right there in the forest. Everyone's stunned. They attacked him, and now he's saving their boss. Pharma calmly explains every step, gives Salomon a makeshift spinal tap to numb the pain, and performs the procedure like a pro. When it's done, he announces Salomon will live and orders a carriage to take him safely back. Salomon's men thank Pharma and promise to keep quiet about what happened. Months later, surprise guest, Salomon again. But this time, he's the new head bishop, and he's visiting Parallel World Pharmacy like an old friend. Eleanor and Charlotte are shocked, but Salomon comes bearing gifts. Literally, a box of treats, and a big thank you to Pharma for saving his life. He says he rose through the ranks to protect Pharma and squash the shadowless boy rumors. Salomon presents Pharma with a legendary wand, the Panicrabdos, a sacred treasure said to belong only to a true divine being. Pharma hesitates, but picks it up, and it instantly glows. Before leaving, Salomon assures Pharma that the temple won't interfere with his work anymore. He can't promise the same for those who attack the pharmacy, but he does give Pharma one last gift, a talisman that gives him shadow, hiding his divine nature. Pharma's overjoyed. All he's ever wanted is to live like a normal person among his friends and family. Later, while out shopping with Blanche, Pharma overhears some pharmacists complaining. The rumor that his pharmacy is heretical has spread, and now, common pharmacists can't sell their products anymore. The townsfolk are upset too, since Pharma's medicine helps everyone. Pharma decides enough is enough. He's going to create a compounders guild so others can sell his formula safely. Cedric agrees to help with the paperwork, and Pharma ropes in the Medique team to make it happen. But that night, tragedy looms. A struggling pharmacist named Jean-Alain Gabin breaks down, unable to save his dying daughter. As Parallel World Pharmacy continues to grow in popularity, the Pharmacist Guild's influence begins to decline. Varen, the guild leader, blames Pharma for their downfall, and rumors spread that Pharma sent a blindfolded horse into the pharmacy. Meanwhile, Pierre, a struggling commoner pharmacist, desperately searches for a doctor to treat his sick daughter, but the clinic is closed. Pharma happens to pass by and offers to help. Pierre hesitates at first, but eventually agrees. They enter the pharmacy through the back door, and Pierre assumes it's because of his lower status. Pharma clarifies that it's to prevent spreading infection. Impressed by Pharma's detailed knowledge of medicine, Pierre listens carefully as Pharma diagnoses his daughter with influenza and prepares medicine to reduce her fever. That night, Marie recovers well enough to leave the pharmacy. Pharma tells Pierre that if her condition worsens, he can contact the guards, and Pharma will come right away. He charges a small fee, explaining that children deserve affordable care. Pierre realizes why the guild can't compete with Pharma's kindness and skill. Later, Pierre tells his wife about Pharma's brilliance and how he wishes to learn from him. His wife warns him not to act rashly, but Pierre feels hopeless about supporting his family. At the next guild meeting, Pierre shares his experience at Pharma's pharmacy. Varen becomes furious and accuses Pierre of betrayal. Pierre calls out Varen's selfishness, saying that Pharma genuinely helps people. Varen ignores him and expels Pierre from the guild. Soon after, Pharma finds Pierre sitting in front of his destroyed shop. Pierre says he plans to move away and start over. Pharma reveals that he's been granted permission by the Queen to establish a new compounding pharmacy guild and invites Pierre to join. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Pierre agrees. Sometime later, Pierre opens his new shop, Dawn Pharmacy. Nervous but encouraged by his daughter Marie, he welcomes a large crowd of customers who have gathered. Seeing the success, Pierre is moved to tears of joy as his new beginning officially starts. Bruno de Medicis wakes up from a troubling dream about Camus de Sada's downfall. Pharma notices his father's unease, but Bruno brushes it off, saying it's nothing important. Soon after, Simon delivers a letter from Pal de Medicis, which makes Blanche nervous since Pal's planned visit had already been delayed. After breakfast, Bruno calls Pharma to his office. He explains that the Saint-Fleur Fair will take place next month, a huge event where merchants from all over the world gather. However, there's bad news. An epidemic recently broke out on a Netter Kingdom's colony, Ponte Island. When researchers investigated, several of them died too. Some merchant ships carrying goods from the island are already headed toward Marseille, the only port willing to accept them. Pharma asks to examine the tissue samples, but Bruno reveals they were already incinerated for safety. According to Pal's letter, the lab studying the disease was sealed after the researchers perished, and they had been using Pharma's microscope for their research. Bruno agrees to send Pharma copies of the researchers' sketches to analyze. At the royal palace, Queen Elizabeth meets with her council. They discuss how the nation's health has improved dramatically thanks to Parallel World Pharmacy and the new Compounding Pharmacy Guild. The guild's knowledge is spreading across provinces, earning Pharma great respect. Some members even suggest giving him the title of Archduke, though he's still too young. Elizabeth, aware that Pharma possesses divine power, quietly vows to use her influence to protect him. Back at the pharmacy, Pharma tells Eleanor about the Ponte Island outbreak and how the fair can't be postponed since it's just 2 weeks away. Charlotte brings him the sketches from Pal, and after examining them, Pharma confirms his worst fear. The disease is the Black Death. Acting quickly, Pharma and Eleanor organize teams from the Compounding Pharmacy Guild and send them to Marseille to work with the local governor, Adam. Their plan includes setting up quarantine stations. When Pharma explains the situation to Bruno, his father agrees that the symptoms match the ancient plague described in old records, one that last appeared over 2 centuries ago. Pharma outlines his plan: quarantine zones, strict inspections, and treatment using levofloxacin. Bruno is proud, but worries that Pharma is taking on too much alone, so he decides to help and arranges a meeting with the Queen. Together, they inform Elizabeth about the threat. She immediately orders restrictions on merchant entry, authorizes cargo inspections, and issues a royal decree for everyone to kill fleas and rodents and to boil their clothes for safety. Determined, she says it's her duty to protect the kingdom from chaos. Soon, the quarantine stations are established. Pierre, now using a microscope designed by Pharma, reports that 1,000 doses of medicine have been prepared. Pharma insists that anyone infected, regardless of status, must receive treatment. At the palace, Elizabeth learns that the fair preparations are going smoothly and that Salomon and the church are ready to assist. With no public panic spreading, she feels reassured. Pharma and Eleanor then set off for Marseille to personally oversee the cargo inspections, leaving Charlotte and Cedric in charge of the capital. The two wish them luck as they depart. But as they begin their mission, far away in a desolate city, an ominous shadow stirs, an evil spirit wandering through the ruins. At the coastal city of Marseille, Eleanor Bonnefoy's students have made sure the ships stay off the port until they're inspected. They've done a good job as Pharma de Medicis goes to inspect the ships with Eleanor. On the first ship, he doesn't find anyone with the Black Death, but does notice some sailors with scurvy on board. The noble merchants begin to get impatient and throw produce at Pharma's boat. Before Eleanor can retaliate, though, some cannon fire halts the nobles. They come from the Scarlet Fleet, led by Commodore Jean, a Landgaben. Pharma is happy to see him, while Jean hopes to stop by Parallel World Pharmacy again. As the group takes a break, everyone is relieved things are going well. However, Adam comes in saying a ship that couldn't wait and docked in a stacked village to smuggle in their cargo. All they know is that the people have left the village, but people are dying in said village. Pharma heads out personally, much to Eleanor's protests. Pharma trusts her with handling things at Marseille and flies off on the Panicrabdos. He nearly runs into a bird and passes through a tree on his way there. Pharma arrives at the village to find people leaving the village in fear. Pharma wants everyone to stay and be treated, but they see him as the one who cursed them at first. Pharma quickly puts up an ice barrier around the village to contain the disease and says he's there to help them. He divides the village into those seriously ill, those slightly sick, and those that aren't infected. Pharma quickly treats the infected and goes to the hospital where those most severely infected are staying. Meanwhile, at the seas of Marseille, Jean finds the ship that docked at a stack earlier to find the entire crew dead. To his dismay, he commands his crew to open fire on the ship to prevent the disease from spreading. Professor Louise Casper wants to help, but everyone ignores her because she's close to retirement. She's aware of this and wants someone to take care of her microscopic studies. She's then called into the president's office. Back in a stacked village, Pharma de Medicis goes into the hospital to find some members of the church wearing plague doctor masks. They're suspicious of him until a member of Salomon's Inquisition recognizes Pharma. Pharma conducts an examination, and while several people can be cured with levofloxacin, one passed away and one guy had a common cold. Pharma directs the patient with the common cold to the infected sector with some new clothes and an isolation period. He uses the Panicrabdos to continue the healing process. The Inquisition finishes delivering medicine to the patients and are tasked with finding the people who brought the illness in, burning up the cargo, and delivering medicine to the infected. In Marseille, Eleanor Bonnefoy is worried that Pharma had to leave the town, but one of her students calms her down. At the academy, Bruno de Medicis talks with Professor Casper about a special medicine that microorganisms can use to stop the Black Death. The professor is overwhelmed, but has plenty of microorganisms to stop the Black Death. Pharma breaks the news that a few of the patients didn't survive, but the head pharmacist of the town is happy that some people are going to live. Pharma leaves a stacked village with everyone needing to stay in town for 2 weeks. Rodents and fleas needing to be eradicated, and if people needed to leave, such animals had to be killed on side. Pharma flies down the road to the capital and finds the torch cargo with some tied-up workers being very unhappy. Pharma breaks it to the workers that they have the Black Death, while learning that at least one crate of white squirrels made it away with 24 workers and 5 holy knights. The holy knights are a concern to the members of the church. Pharma decides to cure all of the workers with the church, dealing their punishment later. Pharma also thinks about this bioterrorist attack being similar to when Elizabeth II had the White Death. Bruno hears word of the coming cargo and warns Elizabeth of the attack. Meanwhile, Charlotte Soller is handing out masks to everyone, and Pierre is looking at samples that come into the capital. He finds a match to the Black Death and hurries to Gate 6 only for the Holy Knights to let loose the squirrels into the city. Pierre hurries to get the guards to sound the alarm as Camus de Sade waits in anticipation. News of the bioterrorist attack gets to Elizabeth, and Bruno de Medicis adds that this attack may have been orchestrated by his old academy friend, Camus de Sade, behind the Nether Kingdom. Salomon stops the Holy Knights from advancing and seals their divine magic. It's later learned that these knights performed this task because the populace were held hostage by Camus. As they die, Pharma de Medicis arrives and learns of Camus' attack. When the alarm bells fall silent for a bit, Charlotte Soller goes to check on the pharmacy with Cedric Lanoux behind her. As the alarm bells come back on, both Cedric and Charlotte are stabbed by Camus, who has become an evil spirit. Bruno and Pharma arrive to see Camus amazed by Pharma's concoctions. Bruno fights Camus while Pharma heals his friends. Bruno falls and Camus turns to face Pharma, who's upset that this man cannot be healed. Camus throws Pharma's concoctions at him, but Pharma is able to eliminate them and punch Camus in the face. Camus warns Pharma that the people won't be able to accept him just as the people didn't accept him. Pharma chooses to preserve their lives as he punches Camus outside and stabs him with the Panicrabdos. Camus dies as the spell, Cleansing Sanctuary, is cast. Charlotte hugs Pharma, thanking him for saving her. The battle with the Black Death continued throughout the city as Eleanor Bonnefoy finished up the inspection of the ships to Marseille. Pharma developed more treatments for the Black Death, and the Compounding Pharmacy Guild distributed them throughout the capital, even to people like Varin. Louise Casper's research continued, as well creating more new medicines. 2 months after Camus' attack, the epidemic ends, the fair begins, and Parallel World Pharmacy reopens. Many people come by bearing gifts, including Jean Alain Gabin, Pierre, and Salomon. Many people return to the pharmacy as Charlotte welcomes them.